Welcome to Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary podcast. This is your host, Scotty B. I'm truly inspired by my next guest's expressiveness and love for anime. Silent Hill, Naruto, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, Dragon Ball Z, DC, The Walking Dead, Star Wars, Marvel, Castlevania. If there is a fandom, my next guest may have had at least one cosplay to express the fun, creativity, and the characterization inside of them, reminding us that cosplay is about fun and expression while staying safe and keeping in mind that cosplay is for everyone. Please welcome to the show, Jake Cosplays.
How's it going, Scotty? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no, thank you so much for being here. I know just crazy times in general, but it's really great to be able to chat with you here as we close in on the end of the season. I certainly did want to have you on the show. We got a lot of really fun things to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Um, just going back first, as I often do, to talk about your story, the origin of Jake Cosplays and your cosplay. So tell us how you got started and, what you love most about cosplaying.
So how I got started, I've always been a real big fan of Halloween, but it was once a year. So I'm like, I love Halloween, but once a year, it would be cool to do this, not every week, but once a month. It sounds pretty cool. So then I'd always see ads for like New York Comic Con, and I saw them probably as far back as say like 2013, and I'd wanted to go for a couple of years, and one year I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna buy a ticket and go. And I say it was 2015. I got my first Comic Con ticket, and I walked around, and I was just like a Vegeta from Dragon Ball, but the blue hair had just came out, and it was like new. So I was like, oh, if I'm gonna go with something, let me do something that I can use for Halloween, but also for the convention. And I was like, okay. I always wanted to be Vegeta for Halloween, so I just bought a Vegeta wig, bought a cosplay, went to Comic Con, and that was pretty much the beginning. And I was like, wow, this is cool. A lot of like-minded individuals, and that was really what drew me to it.
Awesome. Yeah, and Vegeta, one of my favorite characters
Oh yeah.
of the Dragon Ball Z universe. It's kind of a toss-up between Vegeta and Piccolo. But just love that you wanted to start. And to me, that's kind of a complicated build. Just getting the hair and the wig to go right. I mean, the Dragon
Yeah,
Ball Z look is tough.
it
Um,
is tough.
it's
It's even
usually
something to this day. I'm on a panel for body positivity, and even I struggle with that because you look at Goku and Vegeta, and they're really big and strong, and they're Super Saiyans. They work out in these muscles, and I don't feel like I have that. But you have to remind yourself, this is for fun. You're enjoying yourself. Am I still having fun? Do I love the wig? Yeah. It's not about being Vegeta. It's about being you while you're still Vegeta. You know?
Mhm. Yeah, it's the expression of the character, and I think
Yes.
every time that you put on any of the characterizations, just love it. Love to see it in your Instagram feeds, just all
Thank.
the variety, and also you remember the New York Avengers,
I
and
am.
as you know, we've had a few members from the New York Avengers on the show, great friends of the show. So, how did you get started with the New York Avengers, and what do you most like about being part of that group?
I first got started with the New York Avengers. So when Endgame, Infinity War came out, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Danny. He was our Thanos, Reign of Cosplay. So
Hmm.
he used to do a lot of birthday parties. He still does, but he was big with the birthday parties. That's like his business. Great guy. And I actually had reached out to him, and I was like, "Oh, I love what you're doing. If you need an extra set of hands, I just love to help out." And I saw he did like Ronald McDonald House and things, and I was like, okay. He does charity as well as birthday parties. I thought that was fantastic, so I reached out. We became friends. I ended up working with him, and then Infinity War came around, and he was like, "Oh, we're all going to go see the movie." It's a couple of friends of mine. We were not the New York Avengers at that point. Just maybe like 5 or 6 people who were in the group now were there that day. But Sam was there, so I met Samantha that day. Boss Jones, he's also our Black Panther. I met a couple people that day, but he invited me to come see the movie about a month before, and I'm like, he was, "Oh, we're going to go see it in cosplay," and I'm like, "Oh, all right, send me the list of who you have." And then he sent me the list of who they had, and I'm like, Doctor Strange isn't there. Maybe I'll do Doctor Strange for the movie. Did it for the movie, kind of just for the movie. Like, all right, let me just go hang out with meet some new people and stuff. And next thing you know, Danny was like, bro, I need this for the parties. Oh my God. Like he was in love. And I was just like, Danny, come on. Like he's probably one of the most supportive people I've met. And next thing you know, we start the New York Avengers. So I've been in it since the beginning. Probably most people don't know that. I'd say they probably were like, oh, we don't know when you came along, but I've been in it since before we were even the New York Avengers.
Founding member.
Yeah, founding
Excellent.
member, one of them. Yep.
Well, it's everything that the group does. It's just so amazing. All
Yeah.
of the coordination and the effort and all of the giving back that you do as a
Oh,
group
I love
and
it.
individually. It's big thanks from my side of things, from the show, from the people who listen. Really, I do like to emphasize that this is the other side of cosplay. It's about the community and giving back,
Yep.
and that's a big part of the show, and it's a big. I really want it to be more of what's out there. When New York Avengers go on panels and you guys talk about some of the hard issues like
Yeah.
positivity, and cause positivity, and just some of the other bigger things, bullying, anti-bullying. That there's a lot to be said,
There
and
is.
it's a great forum for it, and it's also just it's a good time for everybody too. I think the group, as I've said before, just mention it to Dom, that when you guys get together, it really does look like a very closely knit group.
It
You know,
definitely took time to get there, but we are very close. Like, when you have a group like that, they get a lot of love. You have people who really want to put their ideas in it, but it's a collective effort, and it's not really just like any one person doing everything, because it can't be. It can't be for something that big, those events. And we can't put it all on one or two people either, because that's not fair to someone like Sam having to deal with the stress of just trying to give back and do positive things. You
hmm
have to take some off people's plate, and that's where I'm like, listen, if you need anything, like, just let me know, because we're all here to help. We're all here for the same reason, for the kids. Like, you have to really be professional. You shouldn't have your phone out, number two. Well, that should be your number one. Your phone shouldn't be out. Number two, we're here for the kids. If they would love a photo, go grab your parent or your cell phone. You're more than welcome to take it. If you'd like to tag me or your parent wants to tag me on Instagram, then I might repost it. But something like that, I'm very careful. Even though we're doing really positive things, you still have to be professional. You can't let your guard down.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And switching gears a little bit, because I know I do want to talk about the safety and the
Hmm.
professionalism of convention going and cosplayers as we get moving through the podcast. But one other point that you mentioned before on body positivity is really that comfort zone. Once you put on the costume, depending on how much coverage you get, for for lack
Right.
of a better term, that there is a little bit of getting out of your comfort zone, especially at cons in photo shoots, and that can be really tough for some people. I wanted to mention a shoot that you did for Grace and Shine,
Hmm.
which looked a little bit more like modeling than cosplay. It came up.
Yeah.
I think of the soccer shoot was the one that I'm referencing, and you said you weren't sure that you had it in you. And you did like a GQ shoot too.
Yeah.
That
The
with Grace and
GQ one,
Shine.
yeah, that was Grecian Sign. The soccer one, that was with Michael Large.
Right, that's right. That's with
Yeah.
Michael Arce.
Yeah. So it was two completely, like, totally out of my element. I think the one that was more difficult probably would be the one that will be labeled boudoir, with like the soccer with like no shirt, because I had no idea what I was doing whatsoever. But I was like, St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow. I was like, oh wow, I'm Irish and West Indian, so I was like, maybe I could put something together with the Irish flag behind me. And it really helps to, when you're getting out of your comfort zone, to have someone also there, not just a photographer, but a friend who is there to support you. Because I had my good friend Linda there, and she did her shoot the same day, so we like doubled for each other's support. And even just to have a photographer that makes you comfortable, that is half of what it takes to get out of your comfort zone. Someone just not holding your hand and guiding you, but showing you, you know what, this looks great. Let's try this. I have my own ideas, and just coming up with things, because for specifically for the soccer one, we used coconut oil, and it gave an extra definition of a look. And I liked how I looked. I was like, wow. And that was the photographer's suggestion. He was like, go throw it on. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be crazy. I'm putting coconut. It was just like not my thing, out of my comfort zone. I seen the first 3 photos and I was like, wow, I could do this. Cool. And it really does take, I think half of it's the photographer just making you comfortable and trust. There has to be trust. You can't do shoots like that. And this is one thing right here, so I can link this to safety. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot do shoots like this, boudoir shoots where you're revealing. When you're meeting a photographer for the first time, you have to have a relationship. You cannot, that cannot be your first shoot with someone because it's too intimate, certain things like that. And just for safety reasons, you have to get to know someone before you just, yeah, I'm gonna just take my clothes off for you and let you take photos.
Yes, you can end up in strange situations that way.
Yes.
I know that there are a few famous situations where that happened. You end up in the
Yes.
New Yorker or something like that. Um, but yes, in all seriousness, it really does boil down to safety, your own comfort level, and that not talking about getting out of your comfort zone. It certainly is getting out of your comfort zone to do any kind of a shoot.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you need to develop that rapport, that know, like, and trust
Right.
inside of the industry, inside of the community, so that you know what you're signing up for. I
Yeah.
think that's very important. So getting into more topics on con safety. I mean, I've heard a lot of different rumors, just strange things that can happen at cons, lists that get set up, just like really goofy things that can go on. Everybody's there to have a fun time, of course, but there are things that kind of go on behind the scenes, small
Right.
groups, and people that can kind of, that can blow up and really paint cosplay in a bad light. Most of the time, these things are harmless, but sometimes not. What can you let? Yeah, let's talk about con safety for a while, and just talk about what the venues are doing and maybe what they're not doing that could make the cons better for the family community, for the cosplayers in general.
Yeah. Um, I think a lot of things could be done that aren't being done, but I think putting the cons aside from a cosplayer's point of view, we have to be more responsible with ourselves, with our friends. You can't let your friend just go off like we were saying for an example. They're telling you, hey, I'm gonna go do this shoot in this guy's hotel room, never met him before, and we're gonna be shooting in my bra and panties. You're not going by yourself. And if you do, you're setting yourself up for situations that you don't need to be in. You have to always be with someone. I'm not saying like a con is a scary place, but you have to be safe and prepared. And especially depending on the cosplay you're wearing, you're going to attract certain attention. And it's a shame that it's like that, but we have to be aware of who's around us. You might feel comfortable in this outfit, but you also have people with their kids on Sunday walking around. So if you know Sunday is a big day for children, do not wear your provocative outfit on a Sunday where it's going to be, a bunch of kids around. It's just, you have to be appropriate, but also know, you have to really know your crowd, and you should not be alone. Like, let's say, for example, one of the people in the Avengers has a problem. If they're walking around alone, they might feel uncomfortable. But if there are 5 or 6 of us walking around, no one's going to bother you. You will be as safe as you've ever been. People just don't bother you. But I think that a lot of the situations are people putting themselves in harm rather than it being a dangerous place. I think a lot of it is just foolish people wanting to get ahead, free photos, taking whatever they can get, letting people buy them stuff, and people just not speaking up. I find the community as a whole does not hold each other accountable. And I try to do that with my friends. Like if I know someone is maybe, a little flirting a little too much with everyone in the group, I'll be like, maybe you should tone it down before you get a reputation. And then people start talking about you, and the next thing you know, there are lies going around, and you're on a list or something crazy like that. And it's just like, if we all communicated what we actually want from something and what we expect, and if we have boundaries, I don't think the venues will have to do too much more. I think there's stuff they can improve. Like they definitely need to be a little more responsive and responsible when people are being harassed. Like you can't just let anyone come to your con just because. And when it comes
Mhm.
to like featured cosplayers and stuff, they just look at the numbers. They don't look at the human being behind the cosplayer. They don't look to see if this person has caused drama in the past or anything like that. They don't care about that. They're like, oh, 200K followers, but maybe 10K are real. They don't do research. They don't. It's certain things like that. I'm like, the cons need to be more on top of. But when it comes to like all these lists and things happening at cons, I think that's just cosplayers not being smart as they should be, not being safe and getting caught up in the hype of, oh, I'm gonna get something for free.
Mm-hmm.
Just because people are notoriously cheap in the community, if I'm being honest.
Well, yes, we don't speak for all cosplayers everywhere, but cosplay number one, just putting the bills together is very expensive.
Yeah,
It can be. I mean, it can run up. You can run up a pretty big total. Like let's say you put
100%.
together a Batman suit, or anything that requires a great level of
Yeah,
detail with foam armor. There's a lot that goes into it, but that's I would rather that be the focus rather than the the way in which people want to portray a character necessarily isn't family friendly.
right.
Um, that really shouldn't be the focus. It's fine. I mean, you can cosplay anybody you
Yeah,
want,
of
and
course.
as long as for me, if it's true to the character, it's true to you, go for it. But yeah, the people get together in groups, and yeah, the fake sort of following, that you're really just building things so that you can get your foot in the door, whatever the case may be. That yeah, the convention isn't necessarily paying attention to the engagement.
Right.
They're just looking at the top level
Yeah.
and checking a box. Like, oh well, this person has a bunch of followers. We can sell that,
Yep.
but does it really sell the message of cosplay? Or that it's not really about me necessarily.
Right.
It's a fandom, so it's about the character.
Right.
I'm just borrowing that. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm
um,
just doing something that's not my original creation. Like I'm just having fun borrowing a character. I'm not geek.
and you've actually also been involved in several aftercon events, some of which there was one that was featured last year for the AX Anime Beyond, or Beyond the Cons. How do you keep up the energy for that? I mean, you're on the con floor all day, and then you have to be a part of a big event, and you're working on setting things up and keeping everything lively and energetic, and also safe. Uh,
Right.
Tell us about how you've been involved in those, and what's important to keep in mind if you are involved in an aftercon.
So I've been in, let's say, three aftercons. Um, you definitely cannot go to a con at 9 a.m. in the morning and then host a party at night. It's just not feasible. It's not smart. So generally, I would go to the con maybe mid con. Like let's say the party is on Saturday night, 9 o'clock. I'd probably go to the con 1:30, 2 o'clock arrive. Um, it really makes a big difference too. So let's say it's a hotel con. It's easy to do that because you can walk downstairs, go upstairs, take a nap, wake up at 7, get ready, start at 9. But if it's like New York Comic Con or Anime NYC where you're in Manhattan, there has been times where like I went to the con early, went home, relaxed for a couple of hours, and came back downtown. I'm about a half an hour. That's a lot. It's a lot. So you have to make sure like either you plan your day accordingly, get to the con at 3 o'clock, hang out for 4 hours, get some food, and then go to the party. That's probably the smarter idea. So I would suggest if you're hosting parties and stuff, get to the con a little later. Don't like rush your day. Take your time. Make sure you get proper rest because you need to be lively and energetic if you're going to be hosting or just even if you want to have fun, if you want to make it there. Because if you're out all day, you might not want to go to that party when it's time for you to go.
Hmm.
And you don't want to ruin opportunities that come your way just because you're tired or you didn't plan your day accordingly. Time management, depending on, let's say, if you're wearing a certain cosplay for the after party, if it's a different one, you have to go and change. If it requires makeup, it's going to take you a lot longer than if you're just changing the wig. Like for me, I'm lucky. I could just throw a wig on. I'm not sitting here like doing makeup or anything most of the time. Like, and my girlfriend will help me out if anything. But most of my things, I just put the wig on, contacts, and I'm good to go. But I could imagine if it took me an extra half an hour to do makeup or something. You really have to prioritize your time. That's just what it comes down to. And when it comes to selling tickets for that, this is also another tie-in to the followers and not buying the hype. I've been at parties where they've had people with 80K selling tickets, 100K selling tickets, and I was at like 2,000 at the time, but I sold the most tickets. So it's about engagement because I'd have a bunch of my friends going and like I'll be, oh, we're gonna go here, come through, come on guys, buy a ticket, this, and I have like 1% of the fraction of some of the followers they had, and I'm just like, this blows my mind at who actually has sway in terms of real sway. And you don't know that until you're in there selling tickets with people and you're like, oh, okay, they sold 10, but they have 80K followers. How does this make sense?
Hmm.
It just blows my mind sometimes.
And it really does come down to presentation and that rapport that you have with your
Yeah,
local community, with the
yeah,
people that are going to the cons. I don't know if everybody's necessarily like just people going or paying attention to how many people you have following you. I think that's
right.
more of a metric for the person themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If they're looking to get into that influencer market, that they want to keep driving the number up. But from my standpoint, you have 500 people following around, that's a whole room at a convention. If somebody's going to see a panel, like putting 500 people in a room and then looking at how many that is, that's crazy.
Yeah,
80,000 is a concert. That's a lot of
yeah,
people
like
to put in front of you. That's like
seriously.
Lindsay Sterling or someone, Katy
Yeah,
Perry, they have
yeah,
80,000 people at a concert. So the scale, I guess, doesn't always register that you're on all these different platforms. You have all these people kind of vying for attention. But yeah, it really boils down to how you conduct yourself in that specific space. So if you're at the aftercon, that following amount doesn't
does.
necessarily matter. It's how you're feeling, about what you're doing.
Right.
How do you want to sell it, and how do you want to engage with the people
Yeah,
for that event? So you're completely focused on what you're doing. You're in the here and now, which is cool.
yeah.
And that's really what I appreciate about you, Jake, is
Thank you.
is you really are, your attention to what you're doing, like right now, like, okay, I'm here. You're not, we're not thinking about, how many people we're gonna get today. Okay, I gotta get 20
Yeah,
followers,
yeah, yeah.
or anything like that. And I really appreciate the professionalism
Thank you.
from the New York Avengers and from yourself. Um, and I know we've touched on it already, but what's your take on cosplayer professionalism really overall? And do you think it's important for us to remember that conduct, not just in the con, but online, and really to translate that into just to be that best person that we can be?
I think for me, the best way to do it is to just be the same person you are online and offline. There are too many people with online personalities who act really sweet and kind, but in person they're not like that. They're not even really like that out of the con, but they give off this persona of, oh, I'm giving, I'm loving, I'm caring, but it's all for self. The people who give back the most don't need to tell you that. They don't need to post things and try to get attention because it's just you're doing it to get attention. So I know people, for example, who will tell you they hate children, but yet they're doing charity events with kids in their arms, taking photos. And I'm like, you just told me you hate kids yesterday, and now you're here. Oh, like pick up the kid and yay! And I'm like, so you're faking this for attention. It's not even you. And I usually find that even in life, I've always noticed things about people quicker than other ones. Like my friends, I'd notice like, oh, they're doing something there that's a little fishy. It's a little odd. And it's really hard in groups when you notice that in someone or even in the community because you don't want to be like some kind of whistleblower either, or where you're always calling somebody out because people are going to just make assumptions, even if you're doing it for the good of everyone. If I know someone's using someone, I'll probably tell them, but I'm not going to post it on a public forum where I'm going to be blasting somebody out. I think the professionalism is really lacking because we're kind of in the Wild West. There really are no guidelines or rules when it comes to cosplay. It's still like a budding kind of thing. Like 10 years ago, this probably would have been looked down upon more so. Like now it's mainstream. Now cosplay is cool. You have celebrities cosplaying now.
Hmm.
I think the professionalism still hasn't really found itself. Um, the nicest people I met probably have the least amount of followers, and I generally the people with the most followers are not only like socially just not awkward, but they just can't hold conversations. They won't look you in the eye, but then online they're posting everyone's thing and they're reposting, look you in the eye, and they're like their eyes like twitching when they're talking to you, and you're like, something's off here. Like I could tell that you're faking this too much, you know. And I think that cosplaying professionalism needs a boost, especially from cosplayers and photographers alike. The
Hmm.
photographers definitely need to act more professional because they you would think they are the professionals more so than someone cosplaying. You could be professional photographer, professional cosplayer. It's doable, but it's so few and far between that it's like I wish people would just hold themselves a little more accountable. But even like I know photographers extremely professional. The most professional one I know is probably Michael RJ. He is a
Love Mike's
consummate
work.
professional. He is a true professional in every sense. He's not for everyone because he's a professional. Some cosplayers might not like how it is, but he's a professional. They'd rather work with someone who's just giving them free photos and letting them do whatever they want, not guiding them in any way, but everything's free and they could say whatever they want and act however they want. He's a professional and he's really underrated in this community. Uh, he's probably the only one I would allow to shoot me like that, like boudoir, like in a bedroom setting with my girlfriend, or even just myself. I feel comfortable with Mike. I don't think there's. I love all the photographers, but when it comes to professionalism, I haven't met anyone who matches that level.
Yeah, and really, if anybody wants to check out Mike's work, you can tell right away
Oh my god.
that he keeps the art the focus. You know, it's not always
Hmm.
necessarily, and I'm probably quoting something that I've seen online, but not always the photographer's responsibility to make everyone feel completely comfortable, but to be able to capture um, that essence, that feeling, you know,
It's
the
a
character, the
collaboration at
art.
the end
Yeah,
of the day.
you're
Yeah,
collaborating.
yeah.
That it's not necessarily about you taking the camera. I mean, you're capturing a moment and you know expressing. And the cosplay is the expression, and capturing that expression is what the photographer is working at. And Mike does a really just awesome job every time that I've seen. I mean, I guess I've been fortunate. The photographers that I've met and that I know have all been just spectacular.
Yeah.
They haven't done any photography with me, but just knowing them and talking to them, you know, Jeff Jenkins has been on the show. Ryan
Hmm.
Sims always just
Oh,
does
his work is
fabulous work,
incredible. Oh my
and,
god.
and of course Michael RJ, Grayson Shine. You know, everybody that gets named on the show, there's a reason for bringing them up and for you know really applauding the work that they do. Um, and actually, there's one photo that came up a little while ago that I'd like to talk about with you, Jake. You did a crossover a while
Yeah.
back called Darth, and I'm going to say the name wrong, with Darth Uchiha?
Uchiha. Yeah,
Darth
yeah.
Uchiha. I loved what you did with it. I just wondered if you might want to explain a little bit about how you were inspired to do it and just how it all worked out for you.
So that character is a crossover between Naruto and Star Wars. So I pretty much picked. I was looking through stuff maybe 8 months before that for inspiration of crossover ideas, and we saw like a Star Wars Naruto one, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool," but I didn't like Sasuke's design. He had like a white sword, which would make him more like a gray Jedi in the middle vibe, and I was like, his personality does match that, but only when the show is pretty much over is he like that. The rest of the show, he's kind of lean towards the evil side a little bit. So I was like, I let my other friends in the group, they did the design of the artist, but it wasn't for me. So I had another friend help me figure out like some black robes that I wanted. And I said, okay, let's put purple around the waistband because purple is related to his color. He has purple on his regular outfit as well. And literally, we're in the hotel about to go shoot. And I just added certain things. I was like, oh, let me take this headband. It has the cross in between. So it means the line in between, which means like a rogue ninja. So I'm like, well, if I'm evil, a rogue ninja, and the marks on his face, it's a curse mark. So it's like more power activated. So I'm like, how can I make this as evil looking as I can? And I said, I'll add the curse mark. I'll put the headband on. and a red lightsaber, which I already had previously bought. It's like a ninja handle, and I was like, "Ooh, lightsaber with a ninja handle, that's cool." And I just threw it all together, and it worked out. It really worked out. It was a great, definitely one of my favorite cosplays. The shoot went a little wonky because people were like 40 minutes late. So, but that
Mhm.
picture, Francisco did well on that picture. He did, because that was my favorite picture from the shoot. I was like, damn.
And well, and I really, I thought the concept was really cool, and how you came into it and just put everything together. Yeah, and I'm a fan of both. I mean, more so Star Wars
Yeah,
than Naruto, but I do appreciate that, and I just think it's really cool, and that cosplay is a space for that.
yeah,
You don't just have to. You can mash up
right. Yeah,
different characters from different genres, and you can do photo shoots,
I
that go
did.
across
I did a
different.
crossover of Reverse Flash and Goku Black, and I
Mhm.
met Ezra Miller while I was in that cosplay, and he loved it. He was like, "Is this Goku Black Reverse Flash?" And I'm like, "Ezra Miller knows who I am." Like, yes. But
Yep.
like Flash approved. I'm like, that's all I need now. Like, all right.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really cool when you can have that space to express, those things, and then the people see it and they're on the same wavelength with your fandom. They're
Yep.
like, oh yeah, that's really
Yep.
cool. You're like, I
Yep.
totally understand what you,
Yep.
and it's the conversation. It's the way that you can interact with, it's just a different level. You don't have to talk about work and politics and all that. That
Right.
you can have fun, gaming and comics and
It's where
anime,
they all meet. Yeah. Everything
the
meets,
things we really enjoy.
and they
Um,
all they all collide in cosplay. So that's what I love about it. And I'm like, cool. You meet people from all different fandoms, and you'll find new fandoms because of that.
mhm, absolutely do. Well, I really appreciate all your time today, Jake. It's been just thank you so much for being on the show, for your
No problem.
time, and for all that you do, really, inside and outside of cosplay. I know
Thank you.
you're always working hard, you're always giving back, and we appreciate that on the show. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I do have one question that I always ask of all of my guests, same question for everybody at the end, and it is, what do you want your impact on the world to be?
If I could just make one more person comfortable within themselves, speak up, and just be more comfortable within themselves, I think that's all I want. Just to make people I know more of a backbone, maybe, and just fight for themselves a little more than they have, so they could just be happier. I think that's it. Just make everyone a little stronger around me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
More strength is it's just such a positive thing for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Jake, where can we find you online and how can we support you?
You can find me on Instagram at Jake_cosplays. Um, I don't have any like Ko-fis or anything up, but feel free to DM, offer suggestions. If you have any parties you want things done for, anything at all, reach out. Feel
And
free.
absolutely do. Again, thank you so much, Jake. It's been great talking to you. And for everybody listening, this is the Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary podcast. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Scott.